With kids spending more time at home and on the internet during the COVID-19 shutdown, something unexpected happened. Authorities say sex trafficking that begins online doubled. And with that, there's been an uptick in reports of children sold for sex by their own parents and relatives. Today, we take a frank look at a dark American scandal stretching from the poorest neighborhoods to the rich and famous.
One for the party, two for the shawty, three for the shake ya, bum, bum, bum.
September 2020, international controversy over a Netflix film called Cuties.
I guarantee you every pedophile in America is going to watch this movie, and that Netflix is sitting back fat and happy making money on it. That's not right.
Critics questioned whether Cuties drew awareness to the problem of sexual exploitation of children or sexually exploited the 11-year-old actors. The controversy amplified the discussion about abuse and trafficking of children in the U.S. Just last month in San Joaquin County, California, a child trafficking sex predator sting netted 57 arrests. Chief Inspector Floriano Whitwell heads up sex offender investigations for the U.S. Marshals Service. What do we mean when we talk about a child being trafficked?
It's trading or selling a child to perform sexual acts for monetary gain or services.
The numbers are staggering. In 2019 and 2020, more than 786,000 children were reported missing in the U.S., most considered endangered runaways. The marshals, seen here on a rescue operation in Atlanta, say a lot of those kids end up trafficked, not always by large organized rings, but by people they know and trust. Do parents sometimes traffic or sell their own children?
That absolutely exists.
How young are some of the cases you've seen?
I think the youngest children we've recovered were as young as 7 years old.
Rescue some kids.
He says the real story is that it's happening to so many American kids, but isn't getting more attention.
I personally was extremely concerned by the lack of spotlight, the lack of resources, and just simply the lack of children being recovered across our country, knowing now how big of an epidemic it was. And so I decided to make that my focus.
Which is one reason why you may have heard about a series of rescues by the U.S. Marshals Service. In Georgia, Operation Not Forgotten recovered 26 children. 27 were found in Virginia in Operation Find Our Children. Beyond Georgia and Virginia, 5 kids were rescued in Oklahoma's Operation Triple Beam with 262 arrests. 15 kids, more than 30 arrests in Operations Boo Dat and Summer Rescue, New Orleans. Iowa, Operation Homecoming. Ohio and Indianapolis, Operation Safety Net. Ohio, Operation Autumn Hope. Philadelphia, Operation Safeguard. And in Tennessee, 150 children were found through Operation Volunteer Strong. And that doesn't count all the rescues by other law enforcement.
Last year, we recovered 387 missing children, and that was the most we've ever recovered, almost 100 more than the previous year. But I would also emphasize that, in my opinion, we're barely scratching the surface.
Which takes us back to the Cuties controversy. Some consider child exploitation and trafficking to be Hollywood's elephant in the room, long the subject of rumors and rambling accusations.
If I'm lying, sue me, because these are like pretty damning allegations that I'm making. These are pretty damning allegations. So if I'm lying, sue me.
That's actor Isaac Cappy.
I need a horse.
He's seen here in the superhero film Thor.
We don't have horses, just dogs, cats.
In 2018, Cappy posted a series of explosive allegations online.
So a lot of showbiz parents will knowingly give their kids to be abused, because they'll be like, oh well, we'll get your kid rules and money, and then they take the money and then they just sell their kids. People sell their kids. They sell their kids for money. It's very, very up.
9 months after that video, police say Cappy committed suicide by forcing himself off a bridge in Arizona onto an interstate. Beyond the conspiracies, there's hard evidence of horrifying sexual exploitation of children by those in the entertainment industry. In Great Britain, the monstrous case of Jimmy Savile, one of the BBC's biggest stars. After he died in 2011, criminal investigations found he'd allegedly victimized up to 1,000 children as young as age 2. One recently spoke of being trafficked by her own mother at age 8 to be drugged and raped by Savile. Independent film producer John Paul Rice says child abuse in Hollywood is also very real. He's seen here, Blue Tie, in one of his own films. Rice says he got a rude awakening as a young man getting his start.
And there was a legitimate film that I had been asked to audition for by a director. And when I told my manager that, his immediate response is, "Oh, he wants to F you." Like, no hesitation whatsoever.
Thought you were getting an audition because
of sex. It was expected, and it was, you know, that this is the world.
Former child actor Corey Feldman recently spoke out, saying he was preyed on by men in the industry. And he said his friend, Corey Haim, was raped on a movie set at age 11. Haim died in 2010 after years of drug addiction. After movie producer Harvey Weinstein was sentenced to prison for sexual assault and rape last year, Rice says he thought more actors might step up to expose child abuse, but they didn't. There was a rude awakening, of course, during the Weinstein scandal. Things that had been an open secret but not really addressed for decades came out in the open. But it kind of stopped when it came to talking about children. The scandal was about what happened to women in Hollywood.
Right.
Why do you think it is that people can't or won't address that more directly?
Fear. They're afraid of losing work. Their entire livelihood is tied into making a product for an industry that does this to children, so you kind of have to separate the two.
It may be no surprise that Weinstein connects to Jeffrey Epstein, the child predator tied to the rich and famous. Epstein was invited to major red carpet events even after his 2008 conviction. In 2019, he was arrested again for sex trafficking children before reportedly committing suicide in prison.
And once the human trafficking and the Epstein and the Maxwell and the Weinstein came out, more and more questions were raised, more and more questions were asked, and then the silence of Hollywood is what told them that it was really, really bad.
In the end, the recent case against Epstein links back to the U.S. Marshals. A tip to the Marshals Service turned into the FBI case. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Several years before Epstein was arrested by the FBI, our investigators from the Sex Offender Investigations Branch received information that Epstein was, with great frequency, seen at Tarmac in Florida with young girls. Our investigators began this investigation and also worked with the FBI, provided what was uncovered in our investigation to the FBI, and that's the FBI initiated their criminal investigation and obviously followed through, which culminated in his arrest.
Do you have the merchandise here?
Yep. Came in this morning.
Rice has decided to express his concerns through film. He produced A Child's Voice, depicting a child trafficking ring.
Top quality.
As for Cuties, the backlash turned out to be temporary. The director defended her movie and won an award at the Sundance Film Festival.
We must all together to figure out what is the best for our children. As a director, as an artist, I'm doing my part with this film.
The people who made the film Cuties say that the whole purpose of that film is to draw attention to the exploitation of children, not to do anything harmful.
Calling this art, you sexualize children, you market it as a product, a film, you're going to normalize pedophilia. And that's essentially what this all means, is that it's going to become more normal that we see this.
Authorities say children being trafficked across our southern border with Mexico is a growing worry.